Today's dedication is for Zahn, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Nadu versus Prosper, Send Triplets, and Urza. No green mana, but we do have Brainstorm. Are we going to get into green mana? Yeah, I don't trust it, so we'll go for the mulligan. Got 40 lands in this deck, so we should be able to get into something, and that's nothing but lands. So as good as Nadu is, I think we need to try again and go down a card. Alright, we've got a cheap equipment at least, so we'll try this one. And we'll get rid of a basic forest, it should be fine. Alright, and there's Tropical Island for us, so going for... yeah, we'll go for the Hedge Maze first of all. Was debating that or the Carney Garden, because that'll bring us in a creature. The more creatures we've got in play, the more we can target. And there is a Delighted Halfling, which we can get down next turn, so I'll put that on top. Up against a few blue players here, so it might be of some relevance. Esper Sentinel for the Send Triplets. Alright, so we know what we're drawing into. We'll go Delighted Halfling, and that will keep our commander from being countered, as well as ramp us a little bit. And then the tap land will bring us in a token as well, so Gaia's Cradle's looking pretty good. Skull Clamp being played into the Esper Sentinel by Urza, and a Limvala for the Send Triplets. Shouldn't be too much of an issue for us because we plan to get a lot of lands into play, although there are some 0 mana spells in the deck. Zorn is planning to make a lot of treasure tokens. Okay, so let's see how obnoxious we can be. That is a means of getting free triggers onto the commander, so that's tempting. But we can play the commander now and then tap 3 mana for a Jitte and potentially make mana with that, and we're not necessarily protecting our commander anyway, so I think that's the way to go here. So down comes Nadu into a Gaia's Cradle, which taps for 3 mana, and we'll get down. I haven't been able to play this one yet, but there is the Lost Jitte. We'll let the Esper player draw a card, say no to that. Equip onto the plant token first of all. Got a couple of shots to get into a land. Alright, and we do manage to hit a land. No landfall in play yet, but don't mind just accelerating ahead on lands. We'll go Delighted Halflings, so each of those will have 1 trigger. Managed to hit another land, thankfully. So we'll target the plant again. And there's Crater Hoof. We do not need Crater Hoof yet, although we do have a means of making lots of tokens. So target the Nadu, still can't protect our commander anyway. So might as well tap out, try and get as much card advantage as possible. There is a Mox Amber, so we'll play that. Oh, immediately forgetting about the Limvala, whoops. So we'll have to leave it at that. Yeah, would have just ended up re-equipping the Lost Jitte onto the Delighted Halfling, but definitely should have kept hold of the Mox Amber. Accelerated ahead a few lands though, as well as clearing some cards off the top. Dimir Locket for the Send Triplets. It may well be that Urza is just holding up mana for removal, although did miss a land drop. No black mana for Prosper as of yet either. And there is an Exhibition Magician. They can make a citizen token or a treasure, so they go for 2 treasure thanks to the Zorn. And now they have access to black mana. Apparently missing a land as well. So we get more chances to do obnoxious Nadu stuff. So there we see a Growth Spiral, which probably best holding on to for when we can start doing landfall things. So let's get down the Unctus here, because we can pay Phyrexian Life into that. And also it's going to make the Gaia's Cradle better. So see if we can get anywhere close to going off here. Target the Nadu with the Unctus, and we'll pay 2 life. Obviously triggers the Nadu. Gets into Mana Crypt, which we can't cast into the Limvala. I'll try and remember this time, although wouldn't be surprised if I forget. Trigger Nadu again. So we've paid 4 life thus far. And into a land. Unctus can target itself for another 2 life. And reveal another land. So we'll do the same again. So both of our creatures on the right hand side have both triggered twice. Do have to keep track of that because it's not too easy on Magic Online. Managed to get another land. So missing landfall here. Try and draw into it. Target the plant this time, going below 30 life. And there is an Offer You Can't Refuse, so we can quite nicely protect our board here, hopefully. Going to go for 2 more life into the plant token, and then I can just move the Jitte onto the Delighted Halfling a couple of times. There's a manland that we can target as well if we like. I think I will go for that, so let's animate this. The good thing about Blink Moth and the Mutavault is that you can pay the mana to activate its own ability. Doesn't necessarily matter if it's tapped. So then let's go for Reclamation Sage as well. That can blow up the Esper Sentinel for when we want to cast things like an Offer You Can't Refuse. Haven't made a land drop yet, don't forget, and it's only turn 4. And now, why don't we go through to combat? Yeah, I think we're still alright to hold off on a land drop. Go through to combat and get a counter on the Jitte, because we'll be able to untap a land with that. Probably the Guy's Cradle. So swing down the middle, just bully this opponent a little bit. We draw a card, then discard a card. Could have swung in with the plant as well, I suppose. Okay, there's a land. Might as well get rid of the Mana Crypt if Linvala's going to stay in play. So a charge counter onto the Jitte once we hit. And then we'll tap down the Guy's Cradle. Equip onto the Delighted Halfling, just for the sake of trying to keep track. I think we've done 2 on the plant, 2 on Nadu, and 2 on the Unctus, if I remember right. Delighted Halfling is triggering and gets us into an Ancient Tomb. And with an equipment you can re-equip to a creature that is already equipped with that equipment, if you know what I mean. So Lost Jitte targeting the same creature that it's already equipped to. There's Tireless Tracker for some landfall stuff. Equip the Blink Moth Nexus a couple of times now. This is all off the back of the Gaia's Cradle mana. Got into a Utopia Sprawl. And a Courser of Crucifix, a little bit of life gain, don't think we're going to need that during this game. Target the Rex Sage this time, and we get to do this twice as well. Managed to get into a land, only a matter of time. Again with Jitte onto the Rex Sage, and again we make landfall. So now we can remove a charge counter from the Jitte to untap the Gaia's Cradle, and let's cast ourselves a Tireless Tracker. And I think we're fine to just throw out the Tropical Island. That's our land for the turn. So investigating for a clue token, and then tapping down Gaia's Cradle for 7 mana. We might as well get out the Courser of Crucifix here. Now we've got 2 more creatures that we can throw Jitte onto a couple of times each. And we do see a land on top. We can see the top of the library with the Courser of Crucifix. So I don't intend on playing Nadu all that much, but I did want to get a game in, showcasing how broken it genuinely is. Some of these cards that people worry about aren't actually worth worrying about. Named Bird for the Cavern of Souls that just came in. But yeah, no such luck with Nadu. It is a genuine card to be concerned about, and we are showing it off here. This is only turn 4. A turn 4 in which we've discarded a Mox Amber and a Mana Crypt, by the way. With the Utopia Sprawl, let's just throw that on a Forest straight away, and we can have that tap for blue as well. So the Jitte gets equipped to the Tireless Tracker for a second time. We did get landfall on the Cavern of Souls, so we gained a life, a single life, and we got a clue token as well. Drawing into Zendikar's Royal, so we could just carry this whole thing on. See a land on top again, so equip onto the Courser this time. And you can see with landfall and making tokens, as long as we can do it consistently, especially with something that's free to target or equip, we can just go on forever and ever. So it's a typical boring solitaire deck that, like I said, I never intend on playing again, but good to showcase on the channel, I think. And there's another means of token production, Springheart Nantuko. Won't mind drawing into that, so equip the Courser again. And there's an Arboreal Grazer for more landfall and a means of targeting a creature as well. So tap down the enchanted land, we'll get down the Springheart. Not going to bother enchanting with it, because we're not looking to make copies of any creatures really. Simply trying to get landfall with this to make more tokens. So let's go for drawing into the Arboreal Grazer now. Can target the Springheart Nantuko. Alright, there's a Soul Ring on top which I'll probably shuffle away. Nadu is that good that you can shuffle away fast mana apparently. So I'll make this a basic forest and we can get down the Arboreal Grazer. So here we are triggering Springheart Nantuko for a token, a life gain on the Courser. and a tireless tracker clue token, which I doubt we're going to need. And there's the insect token from the enchantment creature. So now Arboreal Grazer into play, and that will trigger landfall. We'll just get down the conduit pylons. We can surveil a misty rainforest onto the top of our library. But yeah, as far as I can see, this, as long as we're having a decent amount of luck on lands, this pretty much goes on forever. So keep the misty rainforest on top. So I think we'll just leave it there. Our opponents have been incredibly patient there actually. I'm amazed that they've stuck it out. We can shock in a breeding pool, and hopefully an offer you can't refuse will have our board stay intact. But I mean, we've ramped ahead, way ahead of our opponents. It's crazy that you can do this on turn 4 with the Nadu commander. Absolutely obnoxious. Noteworthy that this is without Lotus Cobra and without Tireless Provisioner as well. That will generate you even more mana off all this landfall. In fact, we hardly had any landfall at all until halfway through all that. Pretty crazy, but we should be able to just get down the Zendikar's Royal and go off with a Kraytooth Behemoth next turn, so it's admirable if our opponents want to play it out, but I don't imagine it's going to go well for them. Swords to Plowshare is going to trigger the Nadu, so guess what we've got on top of our library. So landfall, we make a Springheart Nantuko, and we still have a means of targeting our commander as well with the Unctus, so we can get that land that's on top if we want to. Yeah, this is the problem, like, Nadu's so broken that you can't even point spot removal at it without it going off. So the life gain from the Centaur is somewhat helping to negate the life that we put into the Unctus. Oh, we can only do this as a sorcery anyway, so scratch that idea. I'll let the Nadu go down here because we can easily recast it. So that's back into the command zone. And our opponent has managed to get into a land, but unfortunately is playing fair magic over there. So has got down a bounce land. I don't know anything about CEDH, but I mean, I guarantee you can make a CEDH deck out of Nadu. Whether this, I mean, you can look through the deck list, any of you that follow that format, but I'm guessing that it's somewhere close to what you would do with CEDH. A Talion, the Kindly Lord, for friend of the channel Nathan, who's just let me know in the chat that he watches. Prosper Tomebound into play now, thanks to the black mana off the treasure. Alright, so I think we're fine to go for a growth spiral. We can make as much landfall as possible here, just to, not that one, get more tokens in off the Springheart Nantuko. And that obviously maximises the number of creatures that we can beat our opponents with off the back of a Kraytooth. Put them out of their misery after being patient and waiting for us to play all this out. So we will go, and I'll use this one to get a breeding pool. Does mean that we're shuffling away that land on top, but I don't think we will struggle getting into those. So more landfall, gain a life, make a token and make a clue. Alright, and this time shuffling a Mutavault onto the top of the library, so we have 3 lands on top on 3 different occasions there. And then we can go for the growth spiral now, draw into the Mutavault, and might as well play the Mutavault because it will not have summoning sickness. I don't think that's going to be relevant, but good habit to get into. And once again, got a fetch on top. Alright, so another creature on top. Don't often play mana dorks, but we do want targetable creatures for obvious reasons. So I have put the dorks in here. So let's go for the Nadu first of all. So that triggers the Talion because 3 has been named with that. Going to lose 2 life and our opponent draws a card. So getting into a means of targeting on landfall with something like Bristly Bill would be ideal. Let's make more tokens with the Zendikar's Royal. And then it's just a case of making landfall as many times as we can. So I'll just play the Scalding Tarn now. And we can shuffle away that Llanowar Elves with the Scalding Tarn, I think. Get the last island. Now we see a Brainstorm on top, so we can just refill our hand with the Jitte at the moment. I mean, we haven't got into any Lightning Greaves or Shuko or anything like that that has a free equip cost. Have a few of them in the deck as well. We'll draw into the Brainstorm with a clue token. Plus counter on the Tireless Tracker doing that. Alright, now we see a land on top. Let's go for a Brainstorm, see if we can draw into anything relevant, make this whole process much faster. Alright, it's just that fast mana again, so the lands go on top. And we'll just start equipping the Lost Jitte. So we'll start at the left-hand side. Delighted Halfling equipped. And we do get a land into play off that, of course, because we know we've got 2 lands on top. We've got a means of protecting our commander with hexproof underneath the hinterland harbour. I don't think we need to go on for too much longer though. We'll get 1 more landfall trigger in, and then I'll just cast the Crater Hoof because I think we've got it here. Our opponents have been unbelievably patient here. Far more patient than anyone should expect them to be, so they definitely deserve props in the comments section. Especially to Nathan, who watches the channel. I do thank him for this. Thank all 3 of my opponents. But this just isn't a card that should exist. 3 mana doing all this on turn 4 and 5 is, yeah, really, really not okay. But what we could do here is set up something like Thoracle, if you were doing a CEDH build, Labman, stuff like that. I don't have that in the deck. The aim is to make a bunch of tokens, as we have done here, and then go for something like a Crater Hoof win. We've got Blackblade Reforged in the deck as well for getting commander damage on our opponents. Or we could just bore them to death. So down comes Hoof. Nice creative win for us. Yeah, so I'm just saying to my opponents, they're being really good sports about it. There was a bit of saltiness there, but I mean, it's to be expected because, I mean, who comes onto a game and does this? I didn't put any caveats in the game. I didn't say, like, you know, power level 3 so that I could stomp anyone. But I also wasn't fully aware of what the deck was going to do. I thought maybe it was going to be clunky. I have played Nadu before. In fact, you've seen a game with Nadu before on this channel. And yeah, that one didn't go anywhere close to as well as this. So there was no caveat on the game. Didn't ask for CEDH or anything like that. But yeah, I'm in no rush to ever play this deck again. In fact, I've told my opponents that I'm going to retire the deck here because playing Solitaire isn't what we encourage on the channel. So the creatures are all in their 20s here, 25, 28 power, 26, and hopefully I've attacked correctly. I mean, even if we've kept all 3 of our opponents alive, I don't think they're going to do anything about us during this game because we've accelerated ahead way too far. Still only turn 5, but massive shout out to these 3 opponents because, like I've said 100 times, they've played it out when no one else would, I imagine. They've shown huge patience here. And because of that, you've all been able to see just how busted Nadu is. I mean, we all knew it, but it's good to have it confirmed in an actual game of Commander. Alright, and down we go. Minus 35, minus 120. I've been kicked out into the lobby now. But there we go. Nadu is broken. We knew it, but good to have it confirmed. I never use the term broken. I think it's an overly used phrase in Magic. But Nadu as a card is actually broken. And that is a phrase that I don't use very often, so hopefully it means something if this game doesn't. Big thank you again to my opponents for playing. Massive thank you to the patrons for supporting the channel as well. Hopefully you all got some enjoyment and some knowledge from the game you just watched. If you want to support on Patreon, then you can do so yourself via the link in the description below. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.